This is where I might cry. But I've always longed to be a mother. I picture this life of me and Brandon having multiple kids and doing all the things that everyone else around me is doing. And then to basically, at that time, just was come to a complete halt. That probably broke my heart harder than finding out I had cancer. And then you have to start chemotherapy right away. So that was like, obviously, sobbing. There's a plan, and I may not fully see the big picture yet, but I'm starting to. You just got to take it one day at a time. You can't think about tomorrow. You can't think about next week. You can't think about what's going to happen in 6 months, because it's not going to happen like you think it is. We're having a boy. So he was our strongest soldier in the bunch.
Today's guest is someone whose story reminds us that life doesn't always unfold the way we imagine, but sometimes it becomes even more meaningful because of it. Ashley is a North Carolina native, entrepreneur, wife, ovarian cancer survivor, and soon-to-be mom. So happy to have you on this podcast, and I cannot wait to get into your story. I was just actually talking off camera, and I was like, how has our paths not met yet? And how did this amazing woman in Wilmington, so close to me, and I have not ran into you yet? So welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Well, where should I start with 16-year-old Ashley, or is it even
Sure.
younger than that? Can you go back in your childhood and you're like, this is when my story started?
Gosh, honestly, I don't know when like that moment happened. I was 16, needed a job so I can save for a car, and applied to Plato's Closet, which had just opened up here in Wilmington. And here we are 20 years later, still there. But I think I hit that 5-year mark. I don't know. You kind of get that like 5 to 7 year itch, and it's like, what am I doing? Like, is this what I want to continue to do? I went to college for a couple years at Cape Fear, had no idea what I wanted to do, just kept thinking about I really did enjoy my job. And so I just kept pushing forward to continue to move up within the company. And, around 10 years, like kind of had that conversation with the owners that they were obviously eventually would want to retire at some point in time, had no idea when. So kind of just hung on until, they sprung it on us, and told us that they were ready to retire. And so, jumped on it to do whatever we possibly could to purchase it from them, because I've poured my entire life and blood, sweat, and tears into the company, and it's, started from the bottom up. So yeah, I feel like kind of like halfway through, like at least work wise, that's like what I knew I wanted to do. I wanted to own the company or the local business here. And I enjoy being around people. I enjoy, customer service, even with the bad, but it's been obviously a roller coaster, but like overall it's been great.
So how long have you been there at Plato's Closet here in Wilmington then?
So this year is 20 years.
20 years. And
Yes.
Then when did you become the official owner of Plato's here?
About 2 years ago.
And so take me through that just a little bit, because I'm sure that was like an entire mind shift or role shift, leadership.
Yeah. I mean, work-wise and like the roles, I didn't feel like it was like a crazy shift going from like managing the store to owning the store. Outside of, there's a lot more behind the scenes than I realized. So, I've figured out real quick that I can't wear all the hats. But then it was really the process of just trying to find, the right person to replace me. And I think it was more of a challenge, just the timing of everything, than the actual like purchasing the store and transitioning over to owner. I don't know if you want to get into that now or, so in the midst of, it was about 2 years ago, like July of 2023, I found out that I had ovarian cancer. Went in to have surgery. This was also in the middle of me and my husband trying to conceive for about 2.5 years or so. So to kind of get thrown all these things at us at one time, that one, the C word alone is just, it's scary enough. And you just, your mind and body just kind of freezes when that's brought up. Like you never think oh, it can happen to me. Like you see it all around. And, you probably see like family members and whatnot, but you just, just it hits you a different kind of way when it's you. And so in the midst of all, like talking about, all of our options and what it could be, we begged and pleaded, like, at least have like an egg retrieval beforehand. And they were like, no, with this cancer, like with ovarian cancer, hormones basically feed it. So it would just be increasing my chances of it, the staging being controlled or not controlled. And so obviously emotions were high. That was my first big like gut punch of, trying the realization of like, I'm not going to be a mom. I mean, I know there's options to become a mom, but like to have my own kids and everything, like the life that I had imagined just was poof, gone out the door. But everything was like a big like what if. So it's like we're going to go in there and take biopsies and just like do like flash staging to check all of that. And went in surgery day, and fortunately, but not fortunately, in the same thread, my surgery didn't go as planned. I was under a lot longer than they had expected, lost a decent amount of blood. They went in, found out that it was cancer, but because I had been under so long and they had a lot of other like difficulties, and they went and got my husband and our families and just kind of was like, here's what we can do. We can continue, just as a little bit more not safe or riskier. Sorry, brain fart. It's a little bit more riskier if we continue to do the full hysterectomy since it is cancer, or we can wait, just take the right tube and ovary because the cyst or the tumor was attached to my tube and my ovary, and then let her heal, and then we'll go back in and do a second surgery to do the rest of the hysterectomy. And my husband, knowing that like I was terrified to even do this one, kind of battled with what am I going to do? Like, I think this is the right option, but Ashley's going to kill me. She wakes up and is like, I got, sorry, but I decided for you that you have to do this all over again. But they all made the right decision, decided to wait, see what staging is, let me heal. And within like a week and a half or so, we got a phone call from our oncologist and was like, I wanted to give you a call before Duke calls you, but your staging came back a 1C. I've already put in for an emergency egg retrieval, so they should be calling you soon. I'm giving you enough time to do one round and one round only, and then you have to start chemotherapy right away. So that was like, I obviously sobbing, because, I wouldn't say accepted the fact that I wasn't going to have my own kids, but like I was still marinating on it, and like, to kind of go through this roller coaster of, back and forth and the highs and the lows. Like, I mean, it was a miracle, honestly. So, after that first kind of week of recovering, and then the next week going to Duke and starting all the medication and everything. And we were able, kind of long story short, we were able to, they retrieved 33 eggs. So from one ovary, so clearly my body was working, but the cancer was what was kind of making everything else difficult. But all in all, we ended up having 8 viable embryos that we can use for transfer, which is also kind of where we're at now. And
another chapter of coming up.
Yes, another chapter. Yes, ma'am. So went through all of that, started my chemotherapy, and probably about 4-ish sessions in, because the chemotherapy I had to have was every 3 weeks. It was like 5 hours a day. I'd sit and hang out at the Zimmer building. And then every 3 weeks I would go back. And so in the middle of all of that, the previous owners of Plato's Closet called us and was like, hey, we're ready to sell. We want to do this before the beginning of the year, or get it rolling by then, since it is like a long process. And, that kind of like that took us back, because we're already dealing with so much with all of this. But it was like, I couldn't just throw away at that time 18 years of everything that I had put into it.
You're like, perfect timing. Thanks.
Yeah. It's like, what are the odds? Like, timing's terrible. So, it was definitely very stressful, just trying to figure out and weigh out all of our options. We ran into a lot of dead ends and a lot of hurdles, especially like with me having cancer. You can't get life insurance policies that, to borrow money. And after about 6 months of even going through the whole SBA process and getting approved for that, and then the last little tidbit was, which they didn't tell us ahead of time, was the insurance policy and as well. And so I was like, well, crap, like, what are we going to do? And we sat with the owners, and thankfully they were kind enough to owner finance for us for the first few years. And so that way, to kind of help, one, they knew that how much I cared about the store, and they honestly didn't want to sell it to anybody else. They knew that I would still be able to continue to like help the store thrive and continue to grow versus somebody brand new coming in and doing who knows what with it, because it's also still their baby too. So we were able to make that happen and purchase the store. Honestly, the whole legal process and all of that like went well past like me finishing up chemo. So it kind of like, in the end, all the closing's obviously the biggest pain in the ass, but and then the legal going back and forth with having to create new renters agreements and all of those fun things. And so that, honestly, I thought there was a time where I was like, I don't know if this is worth it. Like, this is just so much that I don't know if this is worth it. Like, it shouldn't be this hard. Like, this is it's not like some brand new person's coming in. Like, it's literally the same person running the show. Like, why is it so hard to like get all these approvals like in place?
That's because the universe is making sure that you really wanted it. That's what
I mean, right. And so then finally we closed in October of 2024, and it has been wonderful ever since. Honestly, literally getting past all of the legal stuff and getting to closing, it was like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders, and it was like, all right, like it's just a new drive. Like it's fun. It's like I can do things that maybe I couldn't do before, just or spend money like where I felt that money should be spent, and just kind of having free reign, and just it's almost like a blank canvas in a sense that I could like start all over and continue to do what I've been doing. And clearly I know it like the back of my hand. And, and each year, I want to see it grow. And I know like even as time goes on, like it gets harder and harder, but like, I mean, any growth is growth. And, not every month's going to be perfect, but, we look into it and figure out what we can do to make it better, moving forward. But becoming owner was definitely, I don't know, it was definitely life-changing, but all in just like that new beginning that I also needed with everything else that had been going on. It was like, okay, like things are finally, falling into place, and like I'm not having to fight, one life fiasco to another. Like, so it was definitely relieving. And, obviously owning a business is stressful, but that stress that I don't mind, like I understand and I don't mind, and we can figure it out.
Yeah, I would say after everything else, and you kind of teased the next chapter of where you're currently at. And so before I dive into my questions, I was going to see if you would go ahead and say where you're currently at with.
Yeah. So as of today, we have a surrogate or a gestational carrier, as they're technically called, because since it is our embryo, we are about 9 weeks pregnant, and we're blessed with the girl that we matched with. She's amazing. Her family's amazing. We actually just she's in Georgia, and we went there this past weekend and for a doctor's appointment, but then also got to meet all of her family and hang out. And it's crazy just because like we really did just kind of meet like October of last year, like on a Zoom call. And ever since then, and really ever since the transfer, it's like you would have thought that she's been around like our family and friends. Like she's been a part of our circle for forever. And so it's been so wonderful. We're so blessed to be where we're at now.
I love that. Okay. So I want to dive into so much because I do know that you are married to your high school sweetheart, Brandon.
I am. Yep.
Yes. And so I don't know your age. Sorry, 15 years married or?
Married, gosh, when did we get married? Well, together, we've been together since.
I love that you're asking him in the corner.
He's not even here. I'm just like trying blindly looking. Gosh, since 2008, I believe.
Okay.
So a long time.
It's a long time. And so I think my first question is like, How do you keep your marriage so strong? Buying a business, going through ovarian cancer, and now with, a surrogacy mother with your child on the way. Like, that's like 3 huge chapters.
It is. I honestly believe that we went through all of our hard stuff when we were younger. Brandon, when he graduated high school, he went away to college to play football at Wingate University. And so we did 4.5, almost 5 years long distance. And at the time I was working so much and like could only take like one weekend off a month. And so I picked the one home game, that I could like go see him, which if, college sports, take up all the athletes' time. So I didn't really get to see him, but what little bit of time we could. And so I think us just making it through that alone, really just like strengthened and grew us like in our relationship. We went through all the hard stuff. We went like each of us growing up and like trying to figure ourselves out. And so like all of this, I don't want to say it was easy, but like that's my best friend, he's my rock. He's my everything. And like, without a question has been right by my side from day one. And so really the hard stuff, I would say relationship wise, I felt like happened many, many moons ago. And so like all of this is like, yes, it's hard. Especially like with the infertility side, that's mentally draining for both of us. And, that was a hard time and, just kind of going back and forth and, not saying that we don't argue or don't fight, that's every relationship, but like we really, for the most part, don't though, outside of like small stuff, so, just with the cancer stuff and even the infertility and like, having somebody else, carrying our child, like it's just more of like we're doing this together, not like, he's there for everything. And it's been easy having him there. And it's like, he's been my biggest advocate when it came to all, and sickness and then with the business, thankfully I'm like put me in front, let me run the show. And he's like all the legal behind the scenes, take care of those things. And we balance each other out pretty much.
I love that. That's exactly how me and my husband work too. I can do this side and he does that side. And I think that's like a big success in marriage, which, you're not putting a label on that, but you guys just figured it out, right? You're like, stay in your lane and we're just we'll navigate these with our strengths and weaknesses. So you seem like a pretty positive person. Just telling your story, you smiled the entire time. But I have to ask, was there like a season there that you were just angry or did?
Absolutely. Okay. Angry, sad, like for a little bit questioned my faith, but as the time kept going, it really strengthened it. Like, because there was just so many things, that had happened that shouldn't have happened. And I didn't mean that in a good way. Like, just miracles. Like I wasn't supposed to be able to, do an egg retrieval. And we were able to do that. It's weird how things work. But fully believe in the power of prayer. And I am a very positive person. I don't like sulking in my feelings. Like, did I have my moments? Absolutely. But I'm also more of like a private person when it comes to that too. Like, it's like, put me by myself, and start thinking about things or just processing things. And yes, I'm probably a mess. And around my husband, obviously during all of that time, like, he saw me, but when I'm around people, it's totally different. Like, I feel like I do bury some stuff in a sense, but also we're in the same thread, like being around my people, my friends, my family, like that's what makes me feel better. So even like after my surgery, I had friends coming from out of town that came to visit and everything. And my mom's like, are you sure you want all these people here? Like when you come home from the hospital, I'm like, yes, absolutely. Like, I don't want to be by myself. Like be by myself where, my mind just starts racing and, you go into those like downward spirals of, feeling everything. And like, I did still feel everything. And I know that like also me being so open about my whole journey, from start to finish has very much helped me process everything without like maybe going to go talk to a therapist, like, I probably should have, or just keeping it all in and not talking about it at all. Like, it was definitely something that I just felt like, one, I went through all of this alone. In a sense, I was not alone. Let me retract that. I was not alone. I have a huge circle between friends, family, but alone in the sense of like nobody could relate.
Right.
And so it's like, yeah, you have everyone there for you, but nobody knows what to say. Nobody knows what to say to make you feel better, or they say everything that doesn't make you feel better. But there are no words to make you feel better when you're going through, just the cancer alone. Being able to tell my story made me feel like I could possibly be helping somebody that's going through the same thing that just maybe doesn't know because they're not as open. If I can just even help one person, or, have somebody be like touched by my story, like, and, help them get through whatever, they may be going through, then, that's a win for me. I feel like that makes my heart happy.
I love that. And, I was just sitting here thinking because, as probably that 16-year-old Ashley, like, you had this conception of what a mom was going to look like in your life, right? Like,
Yep.
we all do. We all have that vision that we're going to find our perfect man and we're going to have the dream wedding and, we're going to get pregnant and have this family. And that kind of, you got derailed with that. And I was just going to say, no, you're good. I was just saying, does mom feel different? To me, looking at your story, I'm like, how could that? But I'm sure I'm not in your shoes.
I've always longed to be a mom. This is where I might cry, but I've always longed to be a mother. I've got nieces and nephews and I absolutely adore them. And, everyone's always said like, like nurturing a kid just comes naturally to you. And I'm like, I know, like I'm going to have my own. And then when all of that happened, that did derail me. And, you do picture this life. Like I picture this life of me and Brandon having multiple kids and, just doing all the things that everyone else around me is doing. And then to basically at that time, just kind of was come to a complete halt. And at the moment, just not an option at all. And that probably broke my heart harder than finding out I had cancer. Like, it was like, okay, yeah, I have cancer, but, we can get through that. But it was just that, okay, well, now because of this, like, I don't know what my future is going to look like. And so that was where I struggled the most. With so many people around me, I'm gonna cry. So many people around me, having kids and, all the baby showers and stuff like that. And that's where like obviously I was so happy, for everyone around me, and I love their kids like they're my own. And, but there were some, times where I was just like, I can't go to the baby shower. Like it cut me deep. And not anybody's fault at all, or like, nobody should have felt bad. Just, it kind of hits you at weird times. But to say that, my time's happening, and it's here. So I can't really be sad about it anymore, but just bringing back, the emotions and the memories, like, it was really hard.
No. And I think that, what you said just a minute ago, because, we forget about the dads in all of this, right? And so I'm sure Brandon had like this whole, picture of what dad was going to look like. And then we do forget about them and their journeys to that. So I think that's cool that you brought that up, because we forget that sometimes. So take me through how did you find this surrogate mother that was going to carry for you? Like you said, over a Zoom, well,
that was like our match call. So we first did basically like interviewing agencies, because yes, you can go independent routes, but obviously this is a whole new territory that we know nothing about. Never really heard much about it. We knew it was a thing, but basically just started interviewing agencies to kind of see like who we felt we kind of like meshed with the most, and like who we felt was just gonna check all the all the boxes. But we ended up going with the first agency that we interviewed. We did interview like 4 or 5 more, but like they weren't like explaining everything. They were just talking to us like we knew what we were getting into. And I'm like, that's just, and that we were just like another number. And like, this whole process is a little bit more sensitive, and serious to us. And we wanted to be with with an agency that also like felt the same way and knew that this was how special this whole journey is going to be. So we went with it's agency called Surrogacy is, and then really once we signed up with them and we created our profile. So basically we sent in like 20-ish pictures that we wanted to have that they can choose to like put on our profile. And then it was like what I feel like 100 questions, but it goes to like health stuff to hobbies to, I mean, just anything you can think of. I guess I don't know because I've never been on them, but I guess you can compare it to like online dating in a sense. But it was just like every question under the sun of like all different things. And so we finished, with our profile, sent it back over and they're like, all right, like, would you like to see like, a couple profiles? And before that, we did have to like put in there like what states, like how far out were we willing to go, like to find somebody. And of course, like at first I'm like, I want them in Wilmington, North Carolina. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's not an option. Like, okay, well, what about like moving to like Raleigh? They're a little bit bigger and like still they didn't really have anything. And so I got brought down real quick. I was like way up here and they're like, then the realization of like, okay, you're not going to have like the perfect scenario would be somebody local right here that we could see all the time. We wanted somebody that wanted us to be around too, that like in hopes that we could build a friendship relationship because, this is a special moment. This isn't just transactional. And so we opened it up to a handful of states. And then she was like, what about Georgia? And I was like, I mean, I guess that's just as far as some of the other ones. Like, sure, why not? And she sent us a profile for her name's Carmen. And we were like reading it. And we're like, wow, she just seems perfect. But we were like, there's cost way too much money. Like, we're all in with this. And it's like, we can't just accept the first person that they send us. Like, can we see more? And so we saw probably like 6 or 8 more profiles, but every single one of them, we kept comparing back to Carmen. And what we didn't know at the time is we only get 24 hours to review a profile. And it's like, this isn't like we're buying a car. Like this is a huge deal. Like we don't even have 24 hours to like marinate, on it, to think about things or figure it out. So that's why we kind of like passed up on her the first time. Cause it's like, well, we want to see others, but we didn't know that they go back into like a pool. So at any point in time, someone else was looking, they could have been taken up. And so we finally were just like, all right, is Carmen still available? And they're like, let me see. And then she was, and she's like, all right, so I'm going to send y'all's profile over to her. And then if she says yes, or once we get a response, we'll let you know. And then we will like move forward. And I don't even think it was like an hour. Maybe it was, but she responded basically immediately and was like, yes. And even talking to her now, she was like, I don't even think I got halfway through your profile before I knew that I wanted to like match with you guys. And so from there we went and got it's basically like a virtual meet. So it was just over Zoom. And so it was me and Brandon, Carmen, and then a couple of the ladies from the agency that we had been working with. And that way they're kind of there to like mediate in a sense, or like kind of keep conversations going if need be. And we got on there and like obviously everyone was nervous. You could just like, I was shaking, she was shaking, like you don't know, like I don't know. It's literally like you're going on a date for the first time and you're so nervous. You have no idea, like, I don't know where to even begin. And so that, it was definitely helpful to have the agency there to kind of get the ball rolling, ask some questions back and forth. And, you kind of feel like you already know them because there's that much information on the profiles. But, before we knew it, we got the ball rolling. And I mean, I think we were on the call for like over an hour, and they're usually like 30 minutes, if that. And, we just kept chatting and kept going. And then, so it went great. And then from there, we had to get her medically cleared. And so our clinic was Duke Fertility. And so she had to be basically approved by them, for the transfer. And then we had a couple speed bumps along the way with just small things of, Duke's, very strict in their process, which is great. But it's like minor things that, you know, you needed to like say, yeah, okay, I'm fine with that for if that were, if something, a certain situation were the case, and got her approved and got to move forward. And we had our transfer a couple months ago, and everything went great. And, you know, the whole transfer day was wonderful too, because the doctor that did the transfer was also the doctor that did my egg retrieval. And I mean, she was just amazing. So it was so cool to kind of like all of us kind of see everything full circle, you know, from the time that I'm fighting for my life over here to now we're on the other side and things are, you know, finally going right. And, you know, she was like, you know, this transfer was textbook. Like it couldn't have been better. You know, embryo couldn't have been stronger. And like, it was definitely a very special moment. So then we went and had our French fries afterwards because, you know, the superstitions of, you know, eating French fries for whatever reason to have the baby stick. Then from there, she hung out with us the whole rest of the weekend. And, or after the transfer, I kind of skipped from the medical to the transfer, but after the transfer, you know, she hung out again. And then about 2 weeks later, because we have that 2-week wait to find out if we're actually really pregnant, it's about an 8-hour, 7.5, 8-hour drive from where she lives to here. And we were actually at Carolina Beach for Hannah's birthday and staying there for the weekend. And we were out on the beach, and all of a sudden Hannah, you know, me and Hannah were in the water with some of the girls, and she taps me on my leg, and I look up and Carmen's walking down the beach with like flowers and a gift bag. And it's like, I'm in complete shock. And emotions just came over me, and like, you know, just like frozen, honestly. And it was just like, she's only like, I'm just like crying. I'm like and shaking. Like, she's only here for one reason. And, Hannah's like, yeah, like, come on, like, let's go up there. Cause I was frozen. I couldn't move. And she came to tell us and show us that she had been testing for basically the whole week. And every test just got darker and darker, which we didn't have like our official like blood test until that coming Monday. But she knew. She was like, I felt it, like transfer, the weekend of transfer. She was like, you know, I felt it happening. Like I already knew. And so then she stayed with us the rest of the weekend in Carolina Beach, and then came and stayed like at our house to hang out with us. And so we finally just got like more like one-on-one time with her. Just continue like every time, it just feels natural. Like it's not like it's, you know, it's an awkward like conversation or awkward time. Like, I mean, I don't know how we got so lucky with her, to be completely honest. But yeah, and then Friday we had our basically like a establishment of like pregnancy, even though we'd already had an ultrasound a couple weeks before that, just to make sure that the embryo was still growing so she could be released like from Duke's care so she can transfer over to her OB. But we are 9 weeks and baby's growing, got to listen to the heart rate again, and already squirming around a little bit. And so we're almost a quarter of the way there.
That is so cool. And like to just have her drive down here with, you know, and because you were expecting like one day, like how cool is that? Like, you know, she found out even sooner and surprised you. So, oh my gosh, that's so cool. That's so cool.
You know, and I'd always also like kind of mourned the like thought of being able to surprise Brandon, you know, when we find out we get pregnant, like that we're pregnant, like you know, way back in the day when I thought, you know, getting pregnant was just going to be a breeze, because, you know, we're taught that, you know, you don't even like look at boys or you're going to get pregnant. And so like when we were trying, I was like, all right, it's going to happen. Like, you know, I'm healthy, he's healthy. Like, so I thought that everything would happen. So of course, you know, when I started tracking everything, and I had bought like the onesie, you know, that was like answered prayer, and like, or like, you know, it came in a pack of like a few, and like figured out different ways that I was going to surprise our whole family and like whatnot. And so like that side of things was like sad that I'm like, oh, never, you know, that we won't get to do that. But the way she surprised us, I never thought that I would, you know, get to enjoy and like be a part of that excitement and surprise. And so that was wonderful. So then we got to go around when she came back home with us, and we went around to our family's houses and surprised them in person. So I still got my moment of it obviously looked different than I had ever imagined, but like it was so perfect. And like for her to come down on her own, like, that's a long drive. We just did it again yesterday. And, that's with me getting Brandon to drive. So for her to do it, she's a blessing. I can't imagine doing this with literally anybody else.
I love that. And again, you're so positive about this because your life looks completely different than what you had pictured it when you were 16. So I guess what I want to ask is for the woman out there that's listening to this and is going through any parts of any of either becoming a business, going through the C word, or, infertility on that too. Like, what's the best piece of advice that you can give to them?
One, don't be ashamed. And it's okay to feel your feelings, to let it out, to don't feel like you're alone, even though you really do feel alone in every aspect of it, but you're not. And, you just take it day by day. You really have to take it day by day, because if you just start thinking about what's next, your mind's just going to go crazy. And I am really bad at overthinking things. So I'm thinking of everything that's going to come along with this. And even to getting to where we're at now, how I thought things would go up until this point is nothing like I ever imagined, and for the better.
And you just said the better on that. So what's the gifts that you found that what makes this better than what you thought before you go on? Can you look back and see gifts in this whole chapter now, or not yet?
Oh, yes, absolutely. You got to find the silver lining in everything. Again, I'm a positive person, so I try to find the best out of every situation, because I don't like to sit in my feelings for too long. I allow myself, but I don't like to sit there for too long. And I like to let my emotions out and get through it. And then it's all right, let's put our big girl pants on and let's keep moving forward, because nothing's going to change if I'm just sitting here and sulking in my feelings and not allowing, honestly, not allowing God to guide me into the next chapter of my life. There's a plan, and, I may not fully see the big picture yet, but I'm starting to. I feel I'm definitely a voice for people that have gone through similar situations. And also, just to kind of make things and being that voice and making people aware that this happens, and this happened a lot. It's not, cancer doesn't just happen to older people. That's happening more and more often, I feel to the younger crowd as well. And, there's so many things, and people and that can help you, guide you through your feelings and, kind of navigating your way through it all. But really just taking it day by day. You just got to take it one day at a time. You can't think about tomorrow. You can't think about next week. You can't think about what's going to happen in 6 months, because it's not going to happen like you think it is. And there's no sense in worrying about it twice. And I have to tell myself this all the time. When I'm starting to stress about things or worry about it or get in my feelings, and it's I'm worrying about stuff that hasn't happened, and I have no idea how the outcome's going to be. Chill out. Don't put yourself through it multiple times if you don't need to. The biggest thing is finding what you enjoy, finding something to kind of make the time go by. Whether it's a hobby, a craft. I have found that, obviously we live here at the beach, but living here, I don't feel I go to the beach as much as a normal, most people do. It's kind of you want to stay away from the crowd, stay away from all that. But honestly, getting up early in the morning, going to watch the sunrise and walk on the beach, and which turned into, shelling and looking for shark's teeth. But I guess grounding in a sense. I found that kind of helped me, not feel so much anxiety or stress. It just kind of was definitely a huge stress release for me. So finding what that one thing is that makes you feel that makes you kind of let go for a minute, not think about things. And because you can't live in your situation all the time. It will drive you into a hole. And I've had days, I've had weeks, but you gotta, and my husband, Brandon's he's so good about it. Like, he can see when I would like get into those ruts, and it's like, all right, come on, we got to go do something. Like, we gotta get up, we gotta get moving. We have to, like, you can't just lay here and, think about everything. Like, and so obviously it's definitely nice to kind of have that person to like push you. And again, I've got the best friend group. I've got the best family. And so, I didn't really have time to, get in a downward spiral and stay in my hole. Because there was somebody, checking up on me often. And yeah, just really just finding what brings you peace, whether it's, going to church or, just looking for different avenues to help you with that.
You mentioned it just a couple of seconds ago, but you said that you had people checking in on you. So I think one of the biggest questions, what does it look like on the other side of this for you?
Yeah.
Like, what does it look like for someone to support you through this journey? So what if, if I had a friend going through this, what advice can you give to that friend that's seeing their friend go through something?
Yeah, not to just ask, what can I do for you? Is there anything I can do? Because if you're hard-headed and stubborn and independent like me, I'm going to tell you nothing.
Yeah.
But just showing up, whether it's, it doesn't have to be a gift. I love gifts, but I'm also a big gift giver. But whether it's just showing up to come hang out, to come spend time, to come talk with me, or whether it was bring me food, flowers, like just like small things, or like, helping out like around the house, or like things that, after surgery, especially like that I couldn't do. Obviously, like when it comes with chemo, like you're not really hungry, and it also depends on what type of chemo they're getting. I didn't really get super crazy sick, but I felt nauseous, or like you feel really fatigued, or, so it's like, maybe get like a extremely soft blanket or something that they can just like have with them at all times. They can take it with them to chemo. Like, I took my own like blankets and stuff because the hospital has those scratchy, rough, not comfy blankets at all, and I'm like, well, this isn't going to do anything for me. But also, just different activities, like little activity books, or just like something, if you're sitting there for so long, you can only doom scroll and look at your phone for so long. Also, if they say, like, if people are chemo wise, like if they're like, I don't want anybody to go with me, I also totally understand that. Brandon went with me majority, like for the first half, and then I felt bad because I felt like I was like fighting my sleep because, with all the other medication that they give you, it makes you really tired. I felt like I was fighting my sleep because I didn't want to fall asleep because he was sitting right there and like he would be bored, and he's sitting in this like not comfortable like waiting room chair that they have beside the chemo chairs. And so I felt like, I honestly was like more relaxed when I was by myself. Which again, to each their own, other people could be different. But don't like, just not being like super pushy. It's like, you can say, everything's going to get better, but sometimes you don't know what the future is going to look like. And it's just like, just knowing that they are there if you need them, I mean, goes a long way too. So, whether or not, like if say, I was just kind of reserved or like not reaching out or talking to people as much, like just them just constantly, just checking in on me, whether it's popping in or, even if I say I'm not hungry, still bringing food because eventually they'll get hungry. Just being there, but not being super pushy, but not being super demanding, if that makes sense too.
No, I think it's the hardest thing for, the stubborn friend that you're like, I'm good. I don't need anything. And then you feel bad about being a little bit pushy. So I think that's great that you give us a little bit of grace, and you're like, no, be a little bit pushy. We do get hungry at some point. We say we're not hungry right now. I was so looking forward to this story, and you did not let down any of that. And I love all that. When can we expect a baby photo? And the gender, correct?
Yes, because we had to do genetic testing so they could grade the embryos to make sure they were viable for transfer. We're having a boy. So he was our strongest soldier in the bunch. So Brandon's thrilled for that.
Yeah.
And we're expected to be due January 30th.
Oh, love that. It's going to start off the year with a scream.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're excited.
Well, thank you for joining us or joining me today with all
Yeah.
this, just sharing your story, because I do think like exactly what you said. The more like, even for you, you said it too, that the more you talk about it and someone else out there who needs to hear it, like that's sometimes the best therapy that you
Yeah.
can do.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. It was nice to meet you.
You too.